international peace negotiations. And then in 20, the country, the United States of America, seemed too broken in half, too broken into two parts. And I was pushed by, I don't know, whoever pushes you, God or something pushes you, to establish a settlement project in order to try to bring some of my skills. And I mean, I've really worked in stopping wars all my life. And so the tensions in America were unpleasant for me. I was pushed to try to bring some of those skills and capacities to our country, and to try to recreate a conversational America. Most peace work doesn't believe that one of the sides is more bad than another. They think, oh, let's all get along, right? Get along. And so the big critique or big crime is that you're in conflict at all. But if there's something bad going on, you got to be in conflict. You can't have it around. So there's something conflictual. So the nature of my peace work and why it was effective is because in all conflict, there is one of the sides is at least a little worse than the other. Usually you can spot which side is worse by who initiates violence. The initiator is probably the one primarily responsible for the conflict. So in the United States of America, while the two sides, let's call them left and right, I'll be calling them left and right. The two sides are in conflict, and it's like, oh, bipartisanship or something like that. But if one of the sides is a little bit more wrong, you don't want to just flat, oh, let's get along. There's some things I don't get along with. I just don't want it around. There's a lot of things coming out of certain sides of American affairs that I'll never make peace with it. I'll bring up one example, the sexualization of innocent children, which is legislated in some states, obligatory. In California, I'll probably mention this later again. In California, teachers can be arrested for informing the parents of children who are transitioning. I don't want to just make peace. I'll never make peace with that. And so the peace work behind the ideal of the settlement project goes out of my lifetime of work in war and peace in Israel and Palestine, India and Pakistan, southern Philippines with the terrorist breakaway groups down in the jungles down there. This was where I worked. It wasn't all just get along. There's things you can't get along with. And so when I saw our country breaking in half, it disturbed me, and I wanted to bring the history of my peace work to our country, but including the idea that there's probably one side a little worse, one side maybe a lot worse, who knows? But America could not continue in war. And also those who mean, if within the country there are those who mean the country harm, that side should not prevail. All of us can be tied to extremes on our side that we don't agree with. It's unfair to do that to people. So if I speak of the left, I'm not talking about the lady behind me at the shopping counter who has voted Democrat all her life. I'm not against her per se, but once you hit a middle point, you're basically on either side of a divide, and one has to be concerned about the entire implications of a single option in thought. I'll be introducing those options today. So I founded the Settlement Project in 2020. I happen to think, I'll be confessional here. Actually, I should probably be more diplomatic, but I'll follow my president and throw diplomacy to the winds. I happen to think that COVID. I'm not going to comment on how much that was manufactured for the sake of profit. I'm not going to deal with that right now. But I do think that the circumstance was exploited to create illegitimate election activity. The mass mail out of unsolicited absentee ballots by the millions or tens of millions was, to me, deliberately designed to create the possibility of illegitimate election outcomes. That's my view. Is my speed of talking okay for everybody? I'm talking fast. And is my level of language fine? You're getting it. So if I'm talking a little bit around the corner, like the possibility of election like you could call it cheating or stealing, or, but so I just want to make sure I don't want to be people get cross-eyed and say, what is this guy even talking about? So I'm all right so far. All right so far? Okay, thank you very much. All right, so that caused me real concern. We founded the Settlement Project. And a lot of people got mad at me for the name, Settlement. Why Settlement? Why isn't it called New America or kind of Patriots Unite or something like that? Is what it is, but the reason why I picked settlement is because it's a concept. Basically, when things are settled, no one is against you. If you're in an argument, once you settle. So my idea for America is things are settled. No more conflict, your troubles are behind you, and you can start to build. The Settlement Project is to attain a state where you can start to build. And that's what this project is. And so what had happened, I don't know if you guys, I know you're young, you're in high school, but you've probably witnessed the progression of things getting worse and worse. And so there's an intelligentsia or a speakatariat, like Tucker, or the people who speak brilliantly, Jordan Peterson, like a talkatariat or something like. They're called a commentariat or something like that. Basically, these people, the established big names or something like that, they're old enough to have lived through the attempt of communism to take over the world. Marxism, communism, made an effort to take over the world. It actually successfully secured 2/3 of the world. The youngsters don't know don't know that history. You weren't living during it. You may know about it, but and so we know, and America stands in the way of people trying to take over the world. It's troublesome in that regard. It's very rich, it's very powerful, its military is fantastic, and so forth. So the primary target of Marxists, communists, Soviet Union, what was the United States. And it did certain things in the United States. It tried to destabilize us. There were riots. It tried to infiltrate government. It sent spies into corporations, spies into our military technology, et cetera, et cetera. The Soviet Union and the Communist Revolution was systematic in trying to destabilize America, because only America had sufficient wealth, power, freedom, and military might and stability to stop the globalization of Marxism, which had proved to be a very successful ideology. Not true, false, but successful. So the big speakers now, they did not find a name for what is attacking us now. And so if you're a reader, or if you're involved in the clash in American ideology and ideals and things like that, you frequently hear Marxism. You frequently hear that we're under attack by Marxism, or Marxists, or socialists. Even our president says we don't want socialism. Socialism happens to be an economic theory. It's not a complete theory of society by any stretch. It's just an economic theory. Free market is the economic counterpart to socialism. The only thing I'm saying is that really what has happened. Like for example, I mentioned as an example the transitioning of minors. There's nothing in Marxism about that. There's nothing in Marxism about it. It was not a big cause of Marxism. Where did that come from? What's going on? Another thing, let me think. Race conflict, race conflict. You deliberately perpetrate race conflict, right? Born white racist. I'm not a racist. Yeah, that's what they all say. It's like that was not an element of Marxism. It was not racial conflict. They claimed to be the ideology that would harmonize the races. Did anybody encounter that, right? If you're older, you know about it, right? So, but the deliberate perpetration of race conflict is not Marxism. So we have our great champions, our great defenders, like Mark Levin. Has anybody ever heard of Mark Levin? What was his best-known book or most recent book or most famous book? It's called American Marxism, isn't it? Right? Yeah. And so basically, it's not Marxism. It is a new morph. What is it? It morphed into something new. And in order for those of us who are patriotic, who care about our country, especially you guys who are training yourselves to lead, one needs to know exactly who is at your throat. If you think it's a jiu-jitsu guy and it happens to be an Aikido guy or something like that, you'll lose. You'll lose. You'll be fighting the wrong war. So these teachings today called WIC education, woke ideology, critique, and counterproposal. We developed this in order to accurately identify what is at the throat of our country and not misname it. If you misname it, we will we won't be able to sufficiently counter it. And we're not out to kill anybody. We have no problems with anybody. We just don't want people ruining our country and our children. If you stop, we're fine. You'll be fine with us. Just stop. Okay. So here it is. So I put together this teaching for today, and the progression of what I'll teach today will be what is wokeism. First of all, what is it? Then we'll have small groups discussions, talk among ourselves, and then the afternoon is the roots of wokeism, and the final lecture is how we can overcome it, how we can become, how we can prevail, how American culture can go back to being a pleasant place, a safe place, a harmonious place, where you can differ with someone, you can have a different opinion of someone, and you're not deplatformed. And every time, actually, I'm happy for the people who left America after this last election, but it would be nice if we could have elections that people didn't keep saying, no, I can never live in America again. Listen, we lived through the last 4 years. We didn't, should have, maybe could have, but all right. So I'll start. All right. I have something pleasant that happened to me this morning. There was some guy in the elevator as I was coming down. I left where I was staying, and a very talkative guy. Has anyone ever met a very talkative guy? So somehow their whole lives are right. And so by the time I at the bottom of the elevator, he wanted to somehow solve the whole world's problems. And so he's blabbing away. I don't think he would have described, can I get my water or a water or something? I don't think he would have described what he was doing. He was blabbing away, but it struck me in that finishing. And so then he's telling me, he's all decked out. He might as well have been playing in the OSU. He's all decked up. That's why I said, is there a game today? I guess that was the wrong question to be. And he goes, yeah. I said, and then he tells me, what's in Indiana? Was it? Yeah. And then I said,
is that an important gift? So, it's like, I was in the wrong town. Yeah, I guess he could tell, look, you're not from here, are you? So anyways, he was talking away. And then he goes, you know what? He sounded so conservative, right? He sounded so conservative in this short time, right? And then he says, you know what? And he leans closer to me and he goes, I voted for Harris, he whispers. And I thought, first thought, you idiot. Second thought, how cool that somebody's afraid they're whispering. Just 2 days ago, it was like, dude, I voted for Trump. Oh my God, we're all gonna die. So anyway, so he made my day by being afraid to say out loud, So I thought, oh, things are improving. Okay, so that was good. Okay, so this book came out. We ordered cases for you guys and didn't arrive in time, but this is it. We deliberately made it like a short, fast read. It's enjoyable, easy to read, and so grab one. We'll pass some around, and for those who've camped out overnight, I'll sign one before I get away. You can have a couple of them. But okay. So the first thing I want to say about woke ideology is it's not a trend. It's not a trend. People, trends come and go. Bell bottoms, yeah, but they come and go. They're innocuous. There's trends. Well, I'm calling it an existential threat. If it is not stopped with a higher concept of life, identity, what the world is like, if it's not stopped at its roots, we're all familiar with phenomena we don't like. We don't like open borders. We don't like voting with no identification. Like there's plenty of things we know we're familiar with that we don't like. But these are not things that come and go. One of the things I want to point out is that they all grow out of the same basic root. And if that is not stopped, these types of things will expand and get worse. So I wrote, it's a harm that can't be removed by getting a slight majority in America to reject it, while still half the people are angry or still believe in it or still want to make it win. It has to come to be seen as odd to ever think like that. When that starts to happen, that's when we can start to build together. It must lose its status as legitimate. So what I'm suggesting is that it must lose its status. It must lose its legitimacy. Or else anytime any kid ever goes to college, your teachers are going to beat you over the head with it. They're going to shame you. You can't speak up in class. And everybody who's so cool, who let us love who we love. Aren't we from both? That was a slogan. That was a Harris slogan. If we cannot successfully help establish the status of wokeism as illegitimate, it will continue to contaminate learning and culture from the first time you're in school. And from the parents, like the Hollywood parents. Oh, I've got 2 trans children. Oh, I only have 1. You must be really great as a parent. It's like, it'll contaminate culture, it'll contaminate learning, it will continue in its efforts to focus on the destruction of America, and it will continue to undermine families and freedom that's hard won. All right. The external carriers of woke ideology are race, gender, truth and meaning, and social organization. So race we know. What's it called? Privilege. This is the race matter, privilege. So, and oppression. Those are the two things that exist with race: privilege and oppression. I used to think things like food or music. That's what I used to think race was about. If I met someone from a different race, I want to go to their house and see what their mom cooks. I didn't think about privilege. I thought about what I could learn. I thought about what it must be like to live in a hot area, or to live in an area where you can't walk down the street without fruit falling on you. You know, that's to me is race. Yeah. But now, the only characteristics of race that are generated by woke ideological thought are privilege and oppression. Gender, same thing. I used to think gender was about heart beating fast and falling in love and then, or your wife, what are you looking at? You know, that's what I thought gender was about. You know, it's like the delights of what each gender represents, the glories of the difference. This is what gender's about. Now it's about similar. It's about the entire foundations of wokeism are basically the structure of oppression and resistance. That is the foundation of wokeism, oppression and resistance. I'll be getting into the distinction between Marxism and wokeism, but wokeism has these four homes, whereas Marxism only had one. Marxism did have privilege and oppression, but it was only characterized by two things: rich or poor. That's all it had: rich or poor. And the amount of damage it did by misinterpreting the relationship between rich and poor, the amount of damage it did is unthinkable. Wokeism has four homes. Marxism had one, and look at the damage it did. And yeah. Truth and meaning. What I mean by truth and meaning is that over the course of time, which I'll discuss especially in the afternoon, over the course of time in philosophical development, the idea that I would presume a word has meaning is a power move. I'm oppressing you by assuming that a word has meaning. Over time, wokeism came to become an ideology which forbids you. It calls you an oppressor. If that's why, has everyone ever seen someone being a congressional hearing in which, what do they call the people who have to come up or are called up? Witness and telling a congressperson that 2 and 2 is 5. 2 and 2 is 5. Have you ever heard this? Have you ever seen it? Where does that come from? Why would a person intelligent enough to own a home, own a car, survive their life, be professionally employed, why would they insist that 2 and 2 is 5? Because it's an act of resistance against the patriarchy, against the history of oppressors who have brought European Enlightenment assumptions on us. And so we know we don't want a country in which somebody's at a congressional hearing or mocking an elected official because the elected official thinks that men cannot get pregnant. It's a complete undermining. At its root, it's an undermining of a possibility of the affirmation of meaning. You would be asleep in 2 minutes if I tried to tell you about the language philosophies that have come to completely destroy, it's called deconstruction and so on and so forth, to completely separate meaning from words. It's a means of revolution. It's Instead of revolution with guns, you can't speak. You can't express an opinion. So you think, oh, they have cancel culture, that if you say something bad, they take away. What I'm trying to point out this morning is it's rooted in a philosophical foundation. It isn't that they're just mean and nasty and trying to control us. It starts with the basis in which the only thing that exists is my perspective, my experience. Have you ever encountered this? My experience. Have you ever heard the phrase, no uterus, no opinion? Have you ever heard that phrase? No uterus, no opinion. Why is that? Why is that a legitimate phrase? It's called standpoint theory. It's called standpoint theory. You don't know how I feel, so you just can't speak to the issue. That's absurd. Why can't I speak to the issue? I realize I have limitations. I'll never know what it's like to have the possibility of pregnancy to myself after my relations and things like that. But I can learn a lot about it. I can understand how society works, how civilization works. I can be an intelligent person to reflect on that. Who ever heard of such an odd phrase? But it isn't only there. It becomes everything. I can just look at you and call you a racist, and you say, I'm not. You say, well, that phrase alone makes me feel fear. You saying I'm not is exactly what I'm talking about. And so my feelings become the subject of all assessment of all reality. Clear? Do you follow me on that? And so what I'm trying to point out in today's lectures is we've all experienced these things, but we've never tied them to the basis out of which they arise. They're not free-floating, independent, bad ideas. The idea of having no gender or separating gender from biological chromosomal realities. These two are tied to the beginning of thought. So as you guys start to forge yourselves as leaders, you'll be equipped. You don't have to shout back every time anybody says something stupid, but you can just sit there and say, know exactly where that's coming from. Know exactly why it's wrong. That's what this is meant to do. And social organization is similarly. Does it make sense to have police if there are criminals? Does it make sense to have police if there are criminals? It does. It does. So we live through. Who would have ever dreamt that you would have elected officials, and it costs millions of dollars to elect these people, and that they would be advocating defund the police? So we know we don't like that. We know it's inane. We know we don't want our houses robbed willy-nilly, or does anybody know the limit of how much you're allowed to steal in California? Yeah, $950. Oh, you would have gone to jail. You would have had to put something back. Say, sorry, you've reached the full 1,000. Can you put back the toothpaste? You'll be all right. So we know that this is inane legislation, but what we're trying to do is see how that arises. Defund the police as part of the refusal. It's part of the expression of wokeism that results in policy across the board. Open borders. We know we don't like it, right? We know it doesn't make sense. Does anybody have a lock on the home in which they live or apartment? Right? You have one, right? People just can't come and go as they like through your house, right? Isn't it? But we've just lived through 4 years of an administration that left the 3,000 mile border say, oh, we don't really know who you are, but just come and go to our house. We know it doesn't make sense to us, but where does it come from? How is it possible? I know. Remove all swing states, create a permanent blue, make the blue vote eternal. I get that, yes. But that it isn't only just cynical. The idea originates in woke ideology. The problem is you don't belong here. Your claim that you live here is the problem. You're an oppressor. You're an oppressor. The reason why you want a border is because you're an oppressor. You took that land from somebody else. Do you start to see where this is ideological? It isn't only cynical to remove all swing states and fill it up with Biden supporters and Democratic voters because you give them phones and credit cards and education and, while your veterans are dying on the streets. It isn't just cynical politics. It is ideologically held. The reason why you want a border is because you stole this land, you don't belong here, and you are an oppressor. You want to just keep things that aren't your own. Okay, so woke ideology is carried through 4 homes: race, oppression and resistance, gender. It's the imposition of post-enlightenment patriarchal Western philosophical ideas. That's why you think you're a boy. Somebody did that to you. Some mean doctor did that to you when you were born, and now you're enslaved without realizing the full range of who you are. Truth and meaning. Meaning separated from words. It's the entire foundational structure. God bless you. The foundational structure is the structure of oppression and resistance. That's what creates the things we experience as like buckshot. Oh, I've been hit by that, open borders, like sexualization of children, transition of children. I don't like that. Where does it come from? How does that take over a country? That's what this teaching is meant to communicate. So wokeism is derivative from Marxism. It's in the philosophical lineage of Marxism. It looks and acts like Marxism, but it's more virulent. And thought and activist leaders like yourselves need to become in touch with what that is. Marxism, as I said, had one single place where it identified oppression. Capitalists, bourgeoisie, oppress the workers. Workers of the world, unite, rise up, and claim your rightful ownership of what these evil capitalists are doing to you. They're stealing your labor. And they're stealing your value, because that's the only thing that gives you value is labor. And capitalists are lying around doing nothing, making their money work for them, and they're stealing your value. They're stealing your life. Rise up and remove them. That's Marxism. And they rose up and killed over 100 million people in the name of a single ideology, that somebody is stealing your identity. And you have the pathetic identity of just being a laborer. Your only value comes from what you produce with your labor. Wokeism is embedded not just in your work, it's embedded in your birth. You're born a race, you're born a gender. What a place to embed rage. What a perfect place to embed rage. It's there all the time. Even if you lock yourself in a room, it's there. You go shopping, oh man, you're surrounded by there's a male right there. There's probably a male in this room, for goodness sake. Oh my God. If you want to have rage, if you want to feel oppressed, if you want to see who's been running things, if you want to have somebody that you really got to get rid of, you better get rid of men who've been running things and have made my life miserable. And if we just get rid of them, everything will be all right. Race, gender. I reversed it. That was gender. Race. Anybody who's ever been white or ever thought of being white or ever pondered the term white or ever bought a car that's white, they may, if I just get rid of them or cisgender, heterosexual people, they're the other oppressors, and so on and so forth. You follow me? And so wokeism as a philosophy and as an ideology has a way to be everywhere all the time. Yes, it has the same solutions as Marxism, but it is not Marxism. Marxism had a simple thing. Rich capitalists make your lives miserable. They steal your labor and they steal your identity. And all you have to do is kill them or throw them in jail so that they're never heard or seen from again, or re-educate them so that they can write letters about how wonderful the state is. Okay, so communism and its attack on the United States was defeated, but it was only defeated militarily and economically. America was richer. We happened to have been smarter, luckily at that time, because SDI was a beautiful maneuver. Does anybody know what SDI is? It is a strategic defense initiative. So there was a nuclear. I'll take military terms for 400. Al. I think. So there was a nuclear arms race, which cost the national economies of the Soviet Union and the United States tons of money to invest in military competition. And Reagan, Ollie North, others, they developed what was pitched as a strategic defense initiative. That means anything you fire at us, we can pick out of the sky. And there was video produced of intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, that were picked out of the sky. So at that point, we became invulnerable, at least believed to be so. Does that make sense what I'm describing militarily? Okay, so suddenly the Soviet Union gives up. We can't afford to compete with this. We've exhausted our entire economy building nuclear weapons. They can just pick them off out of the sky. We give up. Our economy, every so often the New Yorker is going to come close to the edge of mine. But, our economy socialism doesn't work. People have no incentive. Our economy is in dregs. We can't keep up with the United States. We give up, and people rise up, and Soviet Union collapses. But Marxism didn't collapse. It was not attacked ideologically. It was just attacked economically and militarily. And that's why we're doing these meetings now. Same with wokeism. And let me see what the next slide is. No, it's not up yet. Same with wokeism. We're so happy. America rejected, they went too far. Yeah, they came after our kids. Now it's dead. Now, we got all three houses of Congress, and we have, Vivek and Musk and great. Unless the ideology itself is disqualified. they're just regrouping and re-preparing to all the more intensely. Do you think because President Trump got elected, that now you can go to college and nobody's going to start to pervert your kids with all sorts of gender confusion and things like that? No, they're going to double down. And so the work of this education system is to immunize we who function in the culture in the face of a community of people who still intend to do this to us all the more so. They're investing full out. So the evidence I've shown here of the endurance of Marxism is, although the Soviet Union collapsed, here's the CCP it's communist. It's overtly communist. It calls itself communist. It's not shy about it, and it exists in space. It threatens the the South China Sea. They're geopolitically or different military theaters. They've invaded half the United States. They own half our farmland. They own most of the farmland that surrounds our military installations. They're floating spy balloons over our country with impunity, et cetera, et cetera. It remains a strong enemy in the name of Marxism. So it was not defeated. And even though we had the good success and good organization, and especially good organization from Turning Point people, to save ourselves from 4 more years, which we probably would not have survived from. But we didn't defeat wokeism. It still exists, and people are still committed to it. So the purpose of today is to show its errors, basically, fundamentally, so that as you evolve and as you emerge, your intelligence and your knowledge will be whole. It won't be I don't like open borders, or it won't be I don't like gender confusion, or it won't be I don't want a woman with a beard and full paraphernalia, in the ladies' room, etc., like Nancy Mace is fighting for us now. But so it's not only in China, it's all over the United States. It's still in the United States. If who do you call it? If Marxism was defeated ideologically, it would be an embarrassment to hold those points of view. And yet in America, it's everywhere. So this is a recent event. Revolution Festival. I wonder if they had good cookies like we have here. It's like a festival. These people, they screaming with veins popping out of they're full of rage and full of anger. And their determination is to stop this capitalist country from causing the harm it does to people. This Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals, he is basically the chief architect of how the left, its tactics for overturning a stable, free markets, free people, a country founded by God. One of his most famous things is when they have power, first of all, cut your hair, put on a suit, and when they have power, we're for peace. When we have power, the bullet decides the matter. So the Rules for Radicals, both Clinton and Alinsky, pictured here, were, Obama, both Clinton and Obama. Anybody recognize Hillary Clinton there? Yeah, you did right away? Yeah. There she is. You ever heard of her? You know who she is, right? Okay. Yeah. Did you know that was her? No, right?
No, I've seen her commercial.
Oh, yeah, you've seen that. Okay. So they were students of Alinsky. And so that determination remains today. So similarly with the wokeism that's harming our country today in these 4 ways, not one way, not just capitalists, but being a man. Being a man is a problem. Or being heterosexual, oh, that's really a problem. Oh my gosh, I feel oppressed. I need a safe space. I don't want a heterosexual around me. Okay. So this is what I was saying. Wokeism has been temporarily thwarted, but we must complete the work ideologically. Okay. You see, we can't create two countries, unfortunately, because all those little blue places there. No, my kid. If we could just collect them all in one place. No, my kid. Okay. So wokeism, it looks like Marxism. It has similar goals and similar strategies, but it can succeed where Marxism failed. The reason why Marxism could not win in America is this. You need a permanently disgruntled working class to be, but in America, or in any free market society, and in any society where you're guaranteed freedoms, including freedom of speech, etc., workers' lives improved. And once your life improves, you don't want to be sleeping under a box next to a machine gun. It's not that attractive of a life. You want to actually take care of your children. You want to take care of your lawn. So America, Marxism could not take over America because class is fluid by nature. Hard work makes you prosperous. In societies that are free, in societies that are calcified by class, then hard work doesn't, like monarchies, hard work doesn't change your circumstance. And so Marxism succeeded. The revolution was in Russia. That was a good circumstance for a revolution of the workers. Because you're, what do you call it? You're fated to be a worker all your life. No matter how hard you work, it didn't change your circumstance in monarchies like Tsarist Russia. You understand? You follow me? So that's why you could have a communist revolution in a calcified structure, society. But in a free and open society with free market, working always helps you. You just grow richer and richer. The more you work, the richer you become. There's certain things working against that now, and that should be one of our concerns. But wokeism can work in America. That's why you take a single, really I have to control my language with him. I think he may be one of the greatest crimes against humanity that ever lived. Under him, there's 325,000 children missing. Probably tens of thousands are probably trafficked. He alone, I've never had a more visceral recoiling from the soul or spirit of a human being than him. But the point of the slide is not for me to brag about how much I don't like this man. But the point of the slide is saying by embedding the destruction, the determination to destroy the United States of America in these four areas, one of which is the illegitimacy of your right to, it's called decolonization. Has anybody met it in college or in school or anything like that? Decolonization. Even knowledge is colonized. You have to decolonize knowledge. And so we have to decolonize our country. And they filled our country with probably 30 million. There's a lot of different numbers, right? Could be as many as 30 million people who you don't know who they are, you don't know where they are. And this is growing out of an ideological commitment. And that's why woke ideology has the potential to undermine America as strong as it is. Marxism did not have the potential to undermine America because its gripe was the exploitation of the worker. And in a free and open society, your lives improve by work. And you lose your revolutionaries. But if you're embedded in colonization, called what is it called? Settler. I forget the name of it. Settler. dominant settler colonies. I forget the term. It's just by living here, just by being here, you've inherited the illegitimacy of what was done to the Native Americans or something like that. Do you see what I'm saying? By embedding yourself in something that can't be removed, can never be removed. That's why when the Hamas, I don't say the Palestinians, Hamas, when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, instantly, the world erupted in Palestinian protests all over America, all over Europe, all over the world. The thing that produced, apart from the massive amount of money that was invested in destabilizing Western civilization, apart from that, from people who hated, not from Muslims, but from Soros and others, to invest in the instantaneous creation of these destabilizing protests, grows out of the ideology, settler colonization. And so Israel, which used to be the top of the totem pole of victims, Jews were victims par excellence because of the Holocaust. They were untouchable as victims. But with the evolution of settler ideology, settler colonial ideology, the Jews shifted in a single day from victims to being oppressors. And so the Soroses of the world and those invested in the destruction of Western civilization instantly produced Palestinian protests all after a group of people, and I insist it is a single group of people, Hamas, and their funders and supporters, not the Palestinians by any stretch. I've been there. I've been to Israel 30 or 40 times. Me and my people were not even checked going back and forth to Gaza and to the West Bank, because these people, yes, they have troubles, but they don't desire to kill one another. The normal people on the ground, what they desire is to have their children go to a safe school and grow and learn. And I'd go to Gaza, and you see a building that was bombed. You see all the rubble on the ground, and then you see these little kids, these little Palestinian kids with their school bags and their perfectly white shirt and the little school bag, and they're on the way to school. They're kids. They don't know anything else. They're playing. They're proud of who can climb. This is a bombed building. So there's this big, it's a bombed building. So they're climbing around, and I got to the top of, they're standing on a big slab of concrete or something like that. They have no idea. They have no idea the wars being created by their elders. They don't know. And so, anyway, I got off on a tangent. But I'm just saying that the woke doctrine of settler colonialism, it's a permanent thing. That you're born a woman is a permanent thing. So that you can so when I said the workers, you can't keep permanently enraged workers because their circumstances improve. But you can keep permanently enraged people who happen to have moves. I moved to a country. Now I'm a settler colonialist, or I was born as a man. Now I'm an oppressor, or I was born heterosexual. Now you have permanent rage, permanent oppression, which the communists were not able to achieve. That's why wokeism has the potential to destroy our country. So wokeism, if you boil it down to sheer religious terms or something like that, people are trying to be good, and there is a force against good. And that force has really come to command and own every single place you turn. Race, gender, language, meaning. So it preempts the possibility of truth. If you remove meaning from language, you can't even discuss what's true. Even to say that something is true it makes you an oppressor. To believe that something can be true, you're denying my experience. So the ideology has morphed or has matured into being able to undo every sacred thing. Like, do you have a point of view about some things? Like, do you get along with your mom? Good, I'm happy about that. So your point of view is that she's a delightful woman, right? Having a point of view is evidence that you are willing to harm someone's feelings. So wokeism has embedded itself everywhere we turn. How magnificent, how majestic of a determination to harm the hope of being human, than to have come to own everywhere you turn. That's what we're dealing with. And that's what we have a way past. That's why we're here. All right. So that was my goal. That was my goal, to kind of make a strong distinction and show what the difference is and what we're facing and the challenges we're facing. But we're up to it. The beauty of it is that it's overcomable in a delightful way. You don't have to change your desire to be a good and pleasant human being. It's exactly that. It's exactly being a good and pleasant human being, we'll see, is sufficient to did anybody see the Wizard of Oz? Like, they threw a bucket of water on the witch at the end. Yeah, so buckets of water are nice. I like buckets of water. Do you see what I mean? They didn't like blast her away, you know. And it was accidental, right? They were trying to put out a fire, right? So somehow we can, and she was really, scary, right? She had all these creatures that flew through the sky. Right. Did you ever see The Wizard of Oz? Okay. So anyway, it's a bucket of water at the end of the day, as we'll hear. So if I'm scaring you, good, okay, because I know I'm not going to leave you walking away depressed. All right. Okay, so the core tenets and affirmations of wokeism. Society is structured to oppress certain groups of people. This is an assumption. When your college professor is telling you how bad things are, that college professor believes that he's helping you become a more compassionate individual, or she. They believe that society is structured. That's why it's called systemic racism or systemic patriarchy. It's the society. It's the society that is built that way. It's the nature of reality. The nature of reality is oppression, and the response of a person of conscience is resistance. Is that clear? So the most you can hope for in life is a life of resistance. How pleasant that is. I would rather have a life of love myself. Can't wait to get home at the end of the day looking at my clock so I can go lay eyes on my wife and grandkid. I don't, like, the highest thing I can look forward to ever is permanent resistance, like hating everything I see. So the foundational description of all of reality is oppression and resistance. There's nothing other than that. And so even knowledge, if you call knowledge in the woke foundation, is called power knowledge. It's not knowledge. It isn't, oh, you know what? Hey, Mom, you know what? I learned why leaves turn red in the fall. My teacher told me why leaves turn red in the fall. That's nice knowledge. I like that. I would like to meet that kid. I don't really know why they turn red in the fall. So, if you know that kid, introduce me. But that's nice knowledge. But the woke ideology coming out of the French language philosophers, Michel Foucault, Derrida, etc., its name is power knowledge. The entire prism of all of reality is power. Power and resistance. So your colleagues in college, if they are leftist, they may say, oh, we're for the poor disenfranchised people. And they really are for the poor disenfranchised people. But they believe that the solution is resistance. Has anyone ever heard of the term anti-racism? Are you familiar with what it is? You can't just not be a racist. If you don't, my children are liberal. My children, my daughters, my son is a conservative, but my daughters are liberal. And every so often they come up with a conservatism far superior to mine. So I thank them for that. So my eldest daughter, who will never let me ever utter a conservative thing in my life without correcting me or going against me. But she said that, does anybody know the chief proponent of anti-racism? Ibrahim X. Kendi out of Harvard, and Kimberly. What's her name? I forget her name. My daughter says, that's basically creating a universe full of Karens, she said. But how cool is that? It's like, if you're anti-racist, you have to be like on the lookout and stand against racism, right? And it's kind of like anti-masochism or something like that. It's like you're always on the lookout for somebody who's like doing something wrong and you have to be up in their face or something like that. So even my liberal daughter came up with a great one. Karenism, racial Karenism, or something like that. I don't think Abraham X. Kendi could, he charged about $50,000 for a half-hour speech, right? Did you know that? Poor Ibrahim. But I don't think he could have worked his way up to such a speaker's fees if he called it racial Karenism. Good thing he didn't be my daughter giving him ideas. All right. So performance gaps. This is all wokeism, and this is worth knowing. But you have that in here. Performance gaps between groups are evidence of oppression. They're not evidence of, I worked hard, I studied hard, I got good genes from my mom and dad, or I was lucky enough that my mom and dad overcame their difficulties and harmonized themselves, so I grew up with a mom and a dad. That's what makes it easier for me to do well in society. That's not why there's different outcomes. That somebody had the good luck of having a mom and dad that stayed together. So I'm able to work through difficulties at work. And I've been at work for 15 years. And now my pension is very high. I'm doing very well. It's not that. No. It's oppression. Any evidence of any difference, of any circumstance, is evidence of oppression. It's not evidence of anyone having done anything different from one another. Do you follow me on that one? This is wokeism. That's where you have the term equity. You've heard of the term equity, correct? Equity means equal outcomes. How crazy. Oh, there it is. Equity. Identity politics. Everyone knows what that is? It's a way to permanently have all subpopulations and subdemographics at each other's throats all the time. It's what's called the totem pole of victimhood, identity politics. All right, do you know what the problem with identity politics is? That my group gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So I'm not only a victim because I'm a woman in a patriarchal society, but I'm worse than that. I'm like, you don't even, because I'm a lesbian woman. And so I'm a lesbian woman, not only in a patriarchal society, I'm a lesbian woman in a heterosexual society. I'm doubly oppressed. So you women, don't look at me and give me your complaints because you oppress me by your heterosexuality. And so your victimhood gets smaller and smaller and smaller because the badge of honor is being oppressed. That's identity politics. Identity politics will never stop being shaved down. And when you have an ideology in which your not only personal experience defines reality, eventually you will be all alone. That's the end of the line. And so imagine trying to build a society where every single person in it is angry that anyone is suggesting that there's some truth to anything other than what I feel. There's that we park outside. I don't like that you park outside. It makes me feel nervous. I see all those cars, and I once saw a Nazi movie, and there were a lot of cars, and don't tell me about parking. It's my feelings determine everything. So what happens with identity politics? Yes, it's a very good way of governing, turning people against each other all the time, but it gets so small because the only truth lies in how I feel. So do people know what the term intersectionality means? You've heard it, of course, but it's a difficult one to get your mind around. Basically, it means that you combine your various oppressions. So I'm black and I'm female. I'm black and I'm female and lesbian. I'm black and I'm female and lesbian with bi tendencies. I'm black and I'm female who grew up in a white neighborhood. You increase the range of your oppression because just your own personal oppression is not enough to have political power. And so intersectionality is a way to bring oppressed groups together so that they can have political clout. So it was an invented term to kind of put the brakes on the inevitable decline of any cohesion socially at all. The ideology forces radical loneliness, radical alienation, perfect separation from everything and everyone. And so intersectionality is by combining things. So you have Gays for Palestine. That's intersectionality. And so the right wing always said, move there, see how that works out for you. But it's ways of expanding because you want political clout, you want legislation, you want control, you want power. But the ideology makes you too small to have power. So intersectionality is the way to build back out and join with co-oppressed people. The predominant characteristics, so these were the core tenets. The predominant characteristics are, no shared objective truth. Success is oppressive, I mentioned that. Emphasis on traits, genders, race, gender, sexual orientation over merit. Hypersensitivity to discrimination, focus on equity rather than equality. You have that, I believe, in your notes. So keep it, study it, become familiar with it, and you can start to recognize when any of those is at play in people you're trying to have conversation with. The manifestations of wokeism. Language policing. Why? Because me claiming something to be true makes me an oppressor, makes you a victim. Cancel culture. You have to be removed. So far in America, it's not legitimate to kill people you disagree with. So you have to have, you know how hard it is to get 1 million followers on Facebook or Instagram or something? It's hard. It takes a lot of work. You spend all your life doing that. Maybe you make skateboard videos or something like that. It's hard. They'll just take it away. Take it away. Just gone. No recourse, nobody to write you, nobody to call. So your whole life, you might be 19, but you worked hard. You fell down 1,000 times, you cracked your hip on the curb, do whatever skateboarders do. But you said something about a trans person. Gone. Your money's gone, your life's gone, your following's gone. And who do I call? Who do I write? Oh, this is what do they call policy? What do they call some kind of something policies of our platform has certain I forget the term. And gone. So this is a way of killing. That's killing somebody. Yeah, those are community guidelines. That's it. Yeah, guidelines of some like kind of sick soul who is like on the lookout for any little thing of their contrary to their ideology. Okay. Cancel culture. Decolonization of curricula. You can't learn about anything without it having to be forced through the prism of oppression, decolonization. Take Turkey, for example. There's Turkish people here. Turkey has suffered at the hands of certain forces in the history, right? It's been invaded or it's been, right? If I were to want to study about Turkey, would I only want to know just things that were done wrong to you? I want to learn about all the millions of things Turks did beautifully in the world. That's what I would rather learn about. Along the way, I'd like to learn about things done wrong to you. But if that were the whole of the Turkish story, or the whole of the women's story, or the whole of the Native American story, if I'm going to learn about Native Americans, they've been really badly treated in America, correct? Am I correct? Yes, they have been badly treated. But I'd also like to learn how their silver work. I'd like to learn about all the wonderful things they've added to our country, despite what's been done wrong to them. So the decolonization of curricula and cultural narratives is such robbery from me. Like if I were a white male, heterosexual, like every kind of oppressor, and I couldn't even, and I can't even learn about the beauty of Navajo art, silver and stone art or something. That I don't want to be deprived of that. I want to learn about that. Dude, this is the impact of wokeism. It isn't only just its hideous legislative outcomes. It's what it does to us. It makes it impossible to be among one another. Cultural appropriation. What a piece of silliness. The young lady beside Ali wears it's called a burqa? No, it's called hijab. Yeah, I'm sorry. A burqa is the clothes. Okay. So a hijab. And where are you from? Roots, Latin America or Philippines? You'd look gorgeous in them. You'd look gorgeous in hijab. Right? It would be fun to wear for a day. It'd be nice, actually. And also to feel what it's like to wear it for a day, something like that. But under woke-mindedness, oh, that's cultural appropriation. You're kind of offending all Muslims, aren't? I'm not offending them. It feels pretty in a way. Something like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So everything about it, by filtering everything through a filter of oppression and resistance, it deprives all of us from the beauty of learning more deeply about one another. Critical race theory, I've mentioned that. And the use of social justice as an enforcement mechanism. These are the manifestations. Okay, so that concludes, wow, I'm not doing bad, time-wise, right? Thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm gonna follow these things into our small groups, all right? Okay.